concentrate on Rev Henry Pereira Mendes. He was a rabbi, he was a reverend, he was a minister, and very much made his mark on American Jewry in his time period. He was, let's just say, one of the famous people over there, famous personalities that was very involved also in Zionistic activities and was very, very well connected to many, many of different rabbis at that stage in time. Now, I think he was born, if we go back, I think around the time period of the 13th of April in the year 1852. He passed away in the year 1937. He was a prominent American rabbi, especially, I think he was born in an area called Birmingham in America. And I think he was, so 1937 was about 88 years ago he passed away. So we're talking about maybe around 4 generations ago. The famous rabbi would pass away. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, a lot can be said with regards to him. Being born in Birmingham in England, he would pass away in New York City. He would pass away in the United States of America. And he was also known as Chaim Pereira Mendes, the rabbi was. So Birmingham in the United Kingdom, I think, had a prominent Jewish community of that stage in time. And he would go on to get married to Rabbinate Rosilia Rebecca Pisa, I believe, was her name. And his parents was Abraham Pereira Mendes and Elisa de Sola. I think the Sola was also a first, let's say, rabbinic connected family on its day. And very, very interesting. So he was educated, born in a Spanish-Portuguese family, rabbinic family that settled in Jamaica, West Indies in the early 1700s. This was his father was Abraham Pereira Mendes, and he was a rabbi in Kingston and Montego Bay in Jamaica, and then Birmingham, England, and the Torah Synagogue in Newport. So various different positions he did. Naturally in Newport in Rhode Island. His grandfather was David Aaron de Sola, who was a rabbi of the famous Bevis Mark Synagogue in London. And his great-grandfather happened to be Rabbi Raphael Moldola. He happened to be the chief Sephardic rabbi of London. He was a Spanish-Portuguese community rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before. I believe his brother was Frederick de Sola Mendes, who would also serve as a rabbi in New York. Okay, now what's interesting is that Rabbi Henry would be educated at Northwick College, Rabbinics, I think, at University College in London. In addition, he would study and graduate, let's just say, from the medical school, I believe, in New York, in New York University. He would take on over there, let's say, a degree. He would get of an MD in the year 1884, and a degree of DD was conferred upon him by the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Remember, initially, that was in 1904. I think the Jewish Theological Seminary originally was Orthodox from the outset, I believe it was. Now, I think on October the 15th in the year 1890, he would get married to Rosita Rebecca Pisa. She happened to be the daughter of Samuel and Rachel Pisa of St. Thomas, Danish West Indies. Let's explore his rabbinic community. I think Reb Mendes would become minister in a newly formed Sephardic congregation in Manchester in England back in 1874. This would be. Come with the year 1877, he was called to the congregation of She'erit Israel of New York, where he would go on to serve until 1920. So we're talking about 43 years. Naturally, he would keep the title of the Rabbi Emeritus accolade in of itself. As his successor, I think Rabbi David de Solapol described it. He actually is quoted saying, "The Rev Jacques Judah Lyons, the venerable Hazan of the congregation, was failing in health, and he passed away on August 13th when Dr. Mendes had been installed for only 2.5 months. It was no easy task for the young preacher from abroad to fill the void created by the passing of Mr. Lyons, who was bound to the congregation by almost 40 years. But Dr. Mendes loyally continued his tradition. It is impossible to record the untiring affection pastoral service which Dr. Mendes at all times gave to members of his congregation in joy and in sorrow, an inspiration to the bride and the bridegroom under the canopy, and a stay of strength to those stricken by bereavement. He was a spiritual father to 2 generations in his congregation. However he was occupied or say weary he might be, no call ever found him other than ready to respond. He was always ready the entire time. In addition to synagogue duties, Reb Mendes served as a professor of homiletics at the Yeshiva Isaac Elchanan from 1917 to 1920. Another prominent position. He would retire in 1920 and he would travel for 4 years through Europe and South America. During that time, I think he reconnected with his first congregation in Manchester and assisted them with Hebrew school curricula. In addition, he spent some time in St. Thomas trying to revive, I think, the S&P community, Spanish-Portuguese community over there, and leading services at this ancient time. He was known for musical contributions also. Now, Rabbi Mendes also made musical contributions to the congregation. As a Jewish music scholar, I think someone named Neil Levin, he explains, Mendes also composed settings for the Chazan and choir of Sherit Israel, judicially retaining the stylistic continuity of Amsterdam Sephardic musical tradition and preserving its unique aura, let's just say, and melodic character. And some of these settings earned a place in the congregation's permanent standard repertoire. Such is the case with a setting of Nuchul Yomar, sung to this day at the conclusion of the Torah service after Torah scrolls have been replaced in the Ark. And let's say his setting of Psalm number 23. And very interesting. Now it's reported over, he would suffer from a shooting. It was very, very well documented. And this, I think, occurred, if I'm not mistaken, on March the 5th in the year 1892. He was shot in the abdomen at his home by a beggar named Jose Mizrahi, narrowly escaping his life. Years later, I think at the man's passing, it's reported over here on Wikipedia, Dr. Mendes paid for his funeral and ensured a proper Jewish burial. You know, he did huge amounts of various organizational activities, let's just say, which really you can see he was just hands-on on so many different fronts. Obviously, Dr. Mendes, he participated for the establishment of a number of organizations for the betterment of both Jewish people and non-Jews. First of all, the New York Board of Ministers, for example, in 1881, he was one of the founders of the New York Board of Ministers and acted as its secretary from foundation up to 1901 when he became the president. The Jewish Theological Seminary, remember, nowadays I think it's a conservative organization, but originally it was Orthodox. I think it was in 1886. He joined with Sabbatio Moraes in helping to establish the seminary, of which he became secretary of the advisory board and professor of history. I think on death, when Dr. Moraes passed away, he became acting president of the faculty until the appointment, I think at that stage in time, 1902, Solomon Schechter will take place. But originally, I think the JTS was a theological seminary. Initially, on the onset, was Orthodox. They had it. Afterwards, it would veer off from that. Then there was a Montefiore home in 1884, the centennial of the birth of Sir Moses Montefiore. Rev Mendes moved his congregation to convene the leading Jews of New York to mark the event by some practical work. I think the outcome, let's say, was the Montefiore Home for Chronic Invalids, established in the same year, and which later became the Montefiore Medical Center. That was another one of his tasks he took on. Now there was also the Guild for Crippled Children. In 1896, he was made vice president of the Guild for Crippled Children. In 1901, he established a Jewish branch of that specific guild. Also, the Orthodox Union. He promoted the formation of the Union of Orthodox Congregations of the United States of America in 1897 and was subsequently elected the president over there. He was also part of the Young Women's Hebrew Association. He was also one of the founders of the Young Women's Hebrew Association of New York. I think this was in the year 1902. Now, when it came to Zionism, he was also very, very active. I think he was an ardent voice in striving for a Jewish homeland. He was asked by Theodore Herzl to spread the Zionistic cause in America and became one of the founders of the Federation of American Zionists, serving as its president. He was also a member of the Actions Committee of Vienna, I think between the years 1898 to 1899. It's recalled over that soon after Dr. Herzl began his movement, calls it a great movement, Dr. Gaster, I think he was the chief rabbi of the Spanish-Portuguese community of England. I think Rabbi Moses Gaster was the name, if I'm not mistaken. He called upon him, on me, he's addressing in his thing, where I was visiting, saying that Dr. Herzl wished to meet me. They both called the next day, and Dr. Herzl asked me if I would undertake to introduce the Zionist movement in the United States. I readily and eagerly consented. Upon my return to the States, he says that I formed the first Zionist association. My interest in Zionism has never been diminished. I think this quote is from the Jewish Daily Bulletin from May the 24th, 1934. Dr. Mendes saw the establishment of Jewish homeland, let's say, as not just a physical goal, but also a spiritual one. As he declared at a Zionist rally in Atlantic City in 1933, besides upbuilding Palestine, we must promote the promulgation of Torah ideas, such as brotherhood of man, end of war, the end of war. We Jews must be an element making for good citizenship. We must make the name of the Jewish respected. Our destiny is to be altruistic, to be a blessing. There should be on Zion a spiritual center to teach the world the three great R's: reverence, righteousness, responsibility. This is actually quoted in the Jewish Telegraph Agency, I think February 10th, 1933. Now, he wrote various different writings on the issue, let's just say. One of the articles was The Solution of Zionism. I think this was in August 1895, if I'm not mistaken, the North American Review. Zionism was another topic in the North American Review. I think come January the 1st, 1897, it was published. The Zionistic Conference in Basel, Notes and Comments, the North American Review. I think in November 1898 was an article. The Hague Conference and Palestine, the North American Review, once again the 7th of September 1906. The Rejuvenation of the Jewish Person, the Jew, which was in the 1st of January 1897. The books and articles was also something he specialized in. He would author books on a wide range of topics on Judaism, history, current affairs, and even fiction, with an ethical message in each of these. In addition, he was a prolific contributor to various journals. He, and along with his brother, Frederick de Soler Mendes, and others, he was one of the founders of the American Hebrew, I think in 1879 this happened to be. And he wrote as well for the North American Review, as we stated just a minute ago. He had various different Jewish books, for example, the Union, Primer, and Reading Book in 1882, Jewish History, ethnically presented in 1895, The Jewish Religion, ethnically presented in 1904, and Jewish Daily Life, ethnically presented 1917. I think later published as a Ruach Chaim, or Jewish Daily Life, ethically presented. More what he wrote on history and current affairs, Lifting the Veil, introductory lecture of Jewish history and literature in 1898. Looking ahead, 20th century happenings in 1899. There was a fiction book, The Earl of Beaconsfield, keys to the famous characters in 1904. The Esther and Harbona, it was a play, I think, in 3 acts. In Old Egypt, a story about the Bible, but not in the Bible, and the Judas Maccabee, a Hanukkah play for Sunday school children in 1898. Now, he passed away. I think Rav Mendes continued, let's say, to be active as an author and an orator in his later years, and was in good health until suffering a heart attack a week before he passed away. He died in his home in Mount Vernon, New York, on October 20th, 1937, and was buried in the Bet Olam Cemetery in Cypress Hill, Queens. That's where he happened to have been buried. So he was a famous American rabbi, British-born rabbi of his time. Learn more about him. I'm not sure the date of his Hebrew passing, when his Hilula actually is, but I believe he passed away around 88 years ago. The famous rabbi passed away. So we're talking about a substantial time ago. So he was very well known in his time. I recommend everyone to learn more about them, learn more about American Jewish history, Zionism history from the rabbi angle within regards to it. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about great rabbis of yesterday. If you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please subscribe. We're nearing staggering 7,000 members of this community. If you feel anyone's interested in watching these videos, please share these videos also to other people. Also, and if you descend from any of the rabbis we're speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information. So from me, goodbye. Have a fantastic day. Please subscribe to this channel.